Resuming debate, the honourable member for North Okanagan Shuswap.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak to Bill C-26, an act to amend the Canada Pension Plan, the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board Act, and the Income Tax Act. Mr. Speaker, I must say that this bill proposes drastic intervention in the form of increased payroll taxes for every working Canadian in our nation. It is not just Canadian workers who will pay for this bill. Canadian employers will likewise be required to increase their CPP contributions for each and every employee. At a time when there are already clouds of uncertainty over our economy and unemployment insecurity for too many Canadian workers, this Liberal government proposes to take more cash from the pockets and books of Canadian workers and employers. Why, Mr. Speaker? Why? Canadian economists, Canadian business owners, and even the Department of Finance have told the Liberal government that this proposed tax hike will hurt Canadians. Analysis from Finance Canada shows that this proposed tax hike will reduce employment. It's a nice way of saying it kills jobs. It will reduce our national GDP. It will reduce business investment. It will reduce Canadians' disposable income, and it will reduce Canadians' private savings. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government's own Department of Finance has warned the government of the harms that this bill will inflict on Canadian workers, Canadian employers, and Canada's economy. And yet the Liberals want to steamroll this bill through Parliament. Again, Mr. Speaker, I would ask why. What is the impetus driving this tax hike? Where is the crisis? Finance Canada has reported that the median Canadian senior earns 91% as much as the median Canadian, well above the OECD average of 84%. A study by McKinsey and Company found that 83% of Canadians are on track to maintain their living standards into retirement. It seems Canadians are saving for their retirements already. This Liberal government could take a lesson from Canadians who are saving at a rate of 14.1% of their pay, a marked increase from the 1990 level of 7.7%. Canadians understand the importance of personal responsibility, the importance of living within one's means, the importance of fiscal prudence, and it is too bad this Liberal government cannot achieve these same understandings. It is my belief, Mr. Speaker, that the people are best served by government policy when such policy supports and provides incentives for Canadians to make sound decisions such as savings for their future. This is why Conservatives introduced tax-free savings accounts, TFAs, to support and provide incentive for Canadians to save for their future. Unfortunately, this Liberal government has chosen to reduce the amount that Canadians can save in TFSAs. This is also why our Conservatives expanded the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS, as a means of reducing the poverty rate amongst seniors, those that need it the most, and it was a logical policy that actually worked. I do congratulate the Liberal government for following our lead and by increasing the GIS rate by a further 10% in Budget 2016. I hope I can stand in this House one day and congratulate them for restoring the contributions to TFAs also. Today, the poverty rate amongst seniors is reported to be 3.7%, a significant decrease from the rate of 29% in 1970. As Charles Lamon and Hugh McIntyre of the Fraser Institute wrote in the Financial Post on June 22nd, and I quote, "Instead of expending political energy on debating CPP expansion and the misguided belief that many middle and upper income Canadians are not saving enough for retirement, the focus of public debate should be on how best to help financially vulnerable seniors." And I say today. Mr. Speaker, savings are up and the rate of poverty amongst seniors is down. Despite these improvements, I believe that governments ought to concern themselves with the responsibility of supporting our seniors who need support, especially the 3.7% who remain in poverty. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this bill will do little to support these seniors this year, or next year, or the year after that. This bill proposes to complete an increase in CPP benefits and wait a little longer, and wait a little longer yet. In 40 years, Mr. Speaker. If the prevailing trend is that Canadians are saving more and more and investing themselves in their own planning and strategizing for their futures, why isn't the government supporting those responsible decisions? Canadians are speaking with their actions when it comes to planning for their retirement, and this bill before us today will undermine that ability of Canadians to plan for their future by saving. The Finance Department's own analysis projects a 7% reduction in private savings can be expected over the long run if higher CPP contributions are imposed upon Canadians. Mr. Speaker, in 1964, the Liberal minister who was tasked with establishing the CPP, the Honourable Judy LaMarche, stated of the CPP, and I quote, "It is not intended to provide all the retirement income which many Canadians wish to have. This is a matter of individual choice and, in the government's view, should properly be left to personal savings and private pension plans." End quote. Mr. Speaker, who in this House can disagree with that logic? Allowing Canadians their individual choices seems a natural conclusion, but not for this Liberal government. This Liberal government remains bent on steamrolling this bill through Parliament and right across every paycheck, every Canadian worker, and the bottom line of every Canadian employer. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are not comfortable with the proposals in this bill. 70% of employed Canadians oppose a CPP expansion if it means a wage freeze. This begs the question of whether wage freezes could result from this tax hike. Well, according to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, and I quote, "2/3 of small firms say they will have to freeze or cut salaries, and over 1/3 say they will have to reduce hours or jobs in their businesses in response to a CPP QPP hike." Also, according to the CFIB, a full 70% of small business owners disagree with the notion that the proposed CPP increase is modest and would have limited impact on their businesses. The CFIB also found that 90% of small businesses think it's important to have public consultations before any deal is finalized. The C.D. Howe Institute has also issued a report showing that the Liberal CPP plan will not benefit low-income workers. Low-income workers will see their premiums go up, but their net increase in retirement benefits will remain low. And this is because higher CPP payments will be offset by clawbacks in GIS state benefits. Surveys have shown that over 1/3 of employed Canadians say the proposed tax increases are unaffordable. Mr. Speaker, Canadians know the proposed Liberal hike is going to hurt them. Furthermore, over 80% want the government to further consult before making their decision, according to another public survey. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve to be trusted. They deserve the freedom to make their own choices in where and how they save their hard-earned money for their retirement. Canadians also deserve to be heard on this matter. This Liberal government seems motivated to launch consultations on everything under their paper sun. Why not consult Canadians on this tax hike? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.